Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviram Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dhyanamulam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur वाक्यं मोक्ष मूलं गुरोर्कृपः मोक्षमूलं गुरोर्कृपः. Namo Ramana. I thank Vasu and Vani for this opportunity to be able to share some of my thoughts with all of you this evening. So we will be talking about Asangoham, non-attachment. In our spiritual lives that we all live, actually, this is one of the very, very important things of in spiritual life. So let's start with a small story. There was a dhobi. Many of you may have been knowing this story also. There was a dhobi who actually took his donkey. With a donkey, he took the donkey every day to the river to wash the clothes. And what happened? One day what happened when he took the donkey there, he forgot to actually take the rope. So he didn't know how to go down to the river to wash the clothes because he realized that the donkey will run away. So he was wondering what to do. Then a wise man walked by and he said, "What's the problem?" He says, "I do not know what to do. I've actually got a donkey. I forgot to bring the rope. How do I tie it to the tree?" So this wise man said, "Don't worry. What you need to do is just pretend as if you are tying the rope around his neck to the tree." So that's what the dhobi did. He pretended as if he's tying the rope to the donkey's neck and to the tree. And then what happened? He went and washed the clothes, and when he came up, to his surprise, the donkey was still there. It did not move at all. So he was surprised. But then he loaded all the clothes on the donkey and told the donkey to move. The donkey refused to move. Again, what happened? The dhobi was wondering what to do. Then that same man, that wise man, walked by again and told him, "What's your problem?" He says, "My donkey is not moving anymore." "Oh, is that the problem? Now what you need to do is untie the donkey. You must see that the donkey is watching you when you are untying. Untie the donkey from the tree and untie it from its neck. Then it realizes that, oh, it is now untied and it can move." So the dhobi does that. He unties the imaginary rope from the tree and around his neck and tapped the donkey, and the donkey started moving. This is a great, beautiful example that, with regard to attachment. Now, the donkey, what it felt at that point of time, the donkey felt he was attached. At the time when he was not, when standing next to the tree, it felt it was attached. But actually, was he attached or not? No, he was not attached. So our story is something like that. Now you look around your room where you're sitting. Just look around. You got chairs, you got tables, you got books, you got a bed, you got a TV, everything. What comes first to your mind? These are my books, my table, all are mine. That's what comes to our mind. That means we're attached to all of this. I have spent money from my salary and bought these things. So they're mine. So you have an attachment to that. Then imagine the second situation that you are renting out a furnished house. A furnished house, what happens? Nothing is yours. The house is not yours. The furnishing is not yours. Only your person clothes are yours. At that time, what is the feeling in that house? You feel that no sense of attachment. You want only clothes to be clean and the washing machine, the refrigerator, the dining table, the sofa set, nothing is yours. And you don't have a sense of attachment at all. Let's look at the third scenario. In the third scenario, you are actually go to a ashram. Say you go to Ramana ashram and you're given a room there. And whose room is that? It's not yours. It's the ashram. Is the ashram's a particular person? No, it's Bhagawan's. Then what happens? No attachments at all. And then what happens? You can easily meditate. When you go to Ramanashramam and get a room, you can sit there and meditate very easily. Why? No attachments. You're taking very little clothes, few clothes, 1 or 2 days. But meditating, what happens? No attachments. So basically what happens is attachments are basically thoughts. The fundamental thing that most of us must be knowing, but attachments are basically thoughts. And where are the thoughts? In the mind. And from where do these thoughts come? Through the senses. So through the senses and the mind are same. You feel that the eyes, nose, mouth, ears, touch and feel is separate, but actually is part of the mind. Now let's look at the three situations that we go through in a day. Now we have in deep sleep, what is our experience? In deep sleep, there is no mind. When there is no mind, there is no body. When there is no body, there is no world. When there is no world, there is no attachment. And we want to go to that deep sleep every night. We want to shut this mind altogether every night. We want to go to deep sleep. That's the nature. That's what we want to do every night. But we don't realize it, that actually the mind gets shut. So there's no attachment. Now let's look at another scenario where you have dreams. In dreams, you have a dream house, you have dream food, you have a dream car, all these things are going on in a dream. When a dream is going on, it seems very, very real. It doesn't feel unreal. When a dream is going on, if you're flying a F-16 plane and your father wanted you to become a fighter pilot and you're flying an F-16 plane, father will say, well done, Venkatesh, wonderful, you're flying this F-16 plane. So, what happens? When you wake up from the dream, what happens? You say, it was just a dream. And you're able to drop the attachments. You don't have to do anything with those attachments. You may have had a Rolls-Royce car in your dream. When you wake up, you don't say, hey, where's my Rolls-Royce car? You don't look for it. Why? Because you're able to drop that dream. When you wake up from the dream, then what happens? You're able to drop those attachments. And then comes this waking state. This waking state of 16 to 18 hours, we are experiencing this world. What happens? Everybody, if you look at the economic times, everybody is saying net worth. Who is the richest man in the world? Stocks went up, stocks went down. Premji is richest. No, Adani is richest. No, Ambani is richest. So in the waking state, that's what happens. All these thoughts come, and these thoughts are working through the senses, and you're giving reality to the world. So what's the cause of the misery? Let's try and understand what is this misery. Why are we not happy all the time? If our nature is happiness, who we are is happiness, everybody knows that. There's not one person who does in this group who doesn't know nature is happiness. But what is the reason we are unhappy? It's a very important aspect in our sadhana. Otherwise, we won't be sitting in this workshop. Non-attachments with Asangoham means I don't want to have any attachments to anybody or anything. I want to be free. If I am free, I am in bliss. I want to be in that constant bliss without any dukkha altogether. But is that the reality for all of us? Is something that we need to ask ourselves. Reality is otherwise. So Bhagavan gives a beautiful example. He says, we are forgetting the way we came out. This is very important. So there was a devotee who was following Bhagavan up the hill. He had come from far distance to talk to Bhagavan. And he was following Bhagavan up the hill. And Bhagavan said, go back. Go back from where you came. Go back. He was so disappointed. This man had traveled such long distances to be able to speak to Bhagavan and get his blessings. And Bhagavan is saying, go back. So then he came back to the ashram and asked, what is this? Why is Bhagavan telling me to go back? He's telling me, so the devotee in Bhagavan's ashram told him, he's not telling you to go back from which place you came. He's telling you to go back into yourself. Leaving the self, you have come out through your intellect, mind, and senses and trying to experience this world and thinking that this will give you happiness. Bhagavan will give you happiness. You have left your source of happiness and trying to get attached to all these objects. Even Bhagavan's body is an object. So it's like that. Like they say, near Bhagavan's couch, there has to be even chimney. So that chimney was closed from all sides. And this little beautiful bird, what happened? It went up the chimney. It went up the chimney and got stuck in that chimney. And it was struggling and struggling and struggling. So Bhagavan gave a lesson in that. He says that bird actually why is stuck in the chimney? Because its nature is to be fly in the expanse. And where it's stuck in this little thing. Now, how will it get free? Unless it goes back from where it came, unless the bird goes back from where it came, then only it can come out of the chimney. So Bhagavan says exactly the same thing for each one of us. That we have left who we really are and trying to look for happiness, trying to look for everything outside. So Bhagavan says, go back to from where you came. That means what? Go back to your source. Now, why should we not? We are in the world. Is there any issue being in the world? There is no issue being in the world. Worldliness is bondage. See that very, very important thing. You are in the world. We have to be in the world. We are dealing with the world all the time. But worldliness, oh, this is mine, this is hers, this, that, everything we're giving reality to the world. Brahman Satyam, Jagat Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. You are nothing but that, but you've forgotten it. There is ignorance. And you're constantly in this mode of going outwards and trying to find something which will give you everlasting happiness. Murgana beautifully says, there is no harm living in the world so long as the world does not live within you. It's a beautiful sentence Muruganar has written. This is the 100th year of Muruganar coming to Bhagawan. So I thought I'll quote some of Muruganar's quotes. He says, there is no harm living in the world so long as the world does not live within you. Now look at this body. When you see this body, there is this bag of flesh and bones, which is jada. We all know that it is one day going to go to the Shamshan Ghat, whatever it is, buried or burnt or whatever it is. There is this body. And behind that is the Chaitanya, is the Atman, is the consciousness, is God, whatever it is behind that. Bhagavan says, Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram Yahamahamiti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. Bhagavan says, in the cave of your heart, Brahman alone shines in the form of the self with direct immediacy as I. So he's saying God is not somewhere else. So that's why he says this body is jada, this bag of flesh and bones, and inside is the Chaitanya, is the God. But in between these two rises the mind. The mind rises because of what? Our vasanas. Our ichhas, all thing, it rises. This middle layer. It's actually like a phantom. It does not exist. It's like a person who's lost his hand thinks he actually has his hand. His hand is not there. The mind is something like that. It's in between. All the vasanas, all the ichhas are actually a layer in between. Now what does the mind do? Mind does not allow you to go inside. What's the nature of the mind? The nature of the mind is to go outside and jump from one object to another. That's the nature of the mind. So if you know the nature of the mind, see, this is a very important thing. It's like a dog trainer. The dog trainer, if it's training an Alsatian or it is training a golden retriever, the dog trainer knows the minds of both of them. So the way he will train a Alsatian will be very different from the way he trains the golden retriever. So for us, what we have realized is there is this middle layer. And if you inquire into a thought, what happens? Like it's like you're getting angry right now. I am getting angry. What happens? I will count down 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. What happens to anger? Now anything that you put attention to, what happens? If it's a negative thought, like anything on lust, greed, anger, hatred, jealousy, any of these things, lower mind things, if you put thought into it, what happens? The intensity of that goes down. Then what happens? The mind, which is trying to say, hey, I'm here actually, slowly quietens. And instead of taking you make you bahirmukha, it takes you antarmukha. Then you start experiencing who you really are. So another thing that happens is this concept of vritti nirodha, avoiding thoughts coming to your mind. How do you do that? So people say that desirelessness is wisdom. You should not have any desires. Why should you not have desires? If you really think about it deeply, what happens is a person who is truly a devotee of God, what does he say? My needs will be met. He knows for sure his needs will be met, but not his wants. The devotee will have to struggle hard for the wants, but the needs will be met. So, if the needs are going to be met, then why do you desire anything at all? So, what is desirelessness actually? It's refraining the mind from going to objects. See, we've realized that everything, that the table, the chair, everything around you are objects. And you see the object, the table does not come in and say that, hey, you are the owner. It does not say that. So it's like that beautiful example of the farmer and the cow. So there was a person who said, oh, you are taking this cow. Is the cow dependent on you or you dependent on the cow? This great example of attachment. So the farmer said, no, my cow, it knows, it has to be always with me. So what happens? That man cuts the rope. What happens to the cow? Cow runs away, immediately runs away, and the farmer starts running to catch the cow. So who was attached to whom? The farmer obviously was attached to the cow. And similarly in our lives, all the things we own, we think we own, we are saying, these are mine things. There was a beautiful example in Swami Shivananda's ashram when he was in the body. There was a man who stole the harmonium from the ashram. So Swami Shivananda said, hey, go and give him this tabla also. Because while singing in the harmonium, he won't sound very good. So there must be a tabla along with them. So look at the way the great ones think. They are not attached to anything. So let's look at another example. You're seeing me in the camera. What is it that's really seeing? The eyes. So drop this body, gross body, come to the most subtle, which is your eye. But is the eye able to see by itself? No. There is a mind behind the eye, which is powering the eye to see. Drop the gross, which is the eye, and you come to the mind. And then, is the mind able to function by itself? No, it's just like a postman. So there's an intellect behind that's powering the mind. Drop the mind, come to the intellect. Who is powering the intellect? That's the consciousness, that's the Atman, that is God. You may call it whatever you want to call it. There's a higher power. That's why Shivananda always says, find the knower, find the seer, find the taster, find the smeller. Why are the great ones talking about this? Detach, attach, detach, attach. Why do they say this? Because more and more you go into the object world, leave the subject, what happens? You will be in dukkha. So what is really happening? If you really look at in our daily lives, we wake up in the morning and then what happens? We see objects, we see a lot of objects. I see, children playing, I can hear the children playing, and I've got to do this, I've got to do that. So many things. So what is this? This mind is like a dog. It's called, in Tamil, it's called Suttarivu. It loves to go from one place to another. It's like a vagabond. Likes to go. If I tell you, go to Taj Mahal there and come back, in 1 second you would have gone to Taj Mahal and come back. So, if the Suttarivu is eliminated, then what happens? If the mind is not, it does not move around, then what happens? You will be established in the silence. And we know the beautiful example of Arunachala, where Parvati did intense penance. And finally she came to Tiruvannamalai. And then she did Girivalam. And then Shiva was pleased. And what did Shiva say? Shakti was the moving. Now she's in Tiruvannamalai, she's called Apita Kuchamba. So she was moving. She's a Shakti. Because of her Shakti, everything moves. But what did she ask Shiva? She says, I want to be part of you. I don't want to be apart from you. What's the nature of Shiva? Nature of Shiva is stillness. That's why he's called Dakshinamurti. He's stillness. So Parvati, what she said, I want to merge into you. I want to. That's why they call Arunachala Ardhanarishwara. Parvati didn't say, I want to sit with you on top of the hill or whatever it is. She didn't say that. She says, I want to be part of you. So the Sutarivu, where all she went, Kashi and other places that she went, because she closed Shiva's eyes and she with repentance, she was doing whatever she was doing. The important thing is she realized that she has to merge into the self. She has to merge into Shiva, which is stillness. And unless she moves, that's what the Sutta go, when you inquire what happens, you actually are dipping into the silence. Bhagawan says beautifully, think of God and attachments will gradually drop away from you. And if you wait for all the desires to be gone, finished, some people think I will do my sadhana after all my desires are done. So Bhagavan says that's very dangerous. He says, if you wait for all the desires to be done before devotion and prayer starts, it will take long time. So all the great ones say, do it now. So what is happening? That we are constantly in attachment mode. We are constantly attached. We're attached to what we have. Every morning we look at a stock market. How much is our net worth? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? If it's gone down, dukkha. If it's gone up, oh, sukha, little sukha. But finally, what happens? At bodily level, we have attachment. Attachment to whatever we have. Whatever is there in the bank locker. Whatever is there, your brothers, sisters, parents, everything. Continuously we are attached to them. But what happens? What are the great ones saying? What's your nature? See, that beautiful example of that bird who had to go back to come back down the way it came, then only it will be free. It's the same thing for us. Our nature is consciousness, which is like the sky. Our nature is consciousness, but we've forgotten. Because of ignorance, we think we are this limited body, mind, ego complex. The very important thing that we need to understand. Though this is also part of the consciousness. It's like a lake. If you throw a stone in the lake, what happens? There are ripples on the lake. Question comes, is the ripple apart from the lake and the water? No. The ripple is part of the lake and part of the water. Only from the eye's perspective, you think, oh, look at these ripples. I'm seeing ripples. After some time, it all settles down. But when the ripples are there, we don't call it lake. We call it ripples. So same thing. The unmanifest and the consciousness, which is all pervading, has manifested as everything that you see. God liked whatever He was creating, so He created all these human beings, birds, animals, whatever it is, and He said, oh, it's beautiful. So, what happened? The wisdom is to renounce the mind. So, what is mind playing a trick? Mind is the tricky fellow. It's like a man who has come to the wedding. He's all suited, booted up, and he's making a lot of noise. The girls people think he's from the boys' side. Boys people think he's from the girls' side. And what happens? Both of them don't try to argue with that fellow. But then what happens? The boys people and girls people come together and ask, "Hey, who's that fellow?" And that guy runs away. Exactly the same thing with the mind. If you inquire, whenever Bhagawan used to say, whenever there is a thought that comes, doesn't matter how many millions of thoughts come, it doesn't matter. Ask for whom is this thought? Iyotiyarge, nange, nanyaru. For whom is this thought? For me. Who am I? See, the purpose of human life has to be understood very, very clearly. And all the great ones say there's only one purpose of this life. The purpose of the life is to find out who you are. Prarabdha is playing. Bhagavan told his mother, based on Prarabdha, whatever is to happen will happen. Whatever is not to happen will never happen. Be quiet. Summa iru. Why did he tell her to keep quiet? Because whatever this body has to, body, mind, ego, complex has to experience, it is going to experience. Then, as per fate and free will, is there something called free will? Is that question that comes in our mind? And if you really inquire, what happens is the only free will that you have is to inquire who you are. Because prarabdha is playing out in the body. You don't have a choice. The events that are going to play out are playing out. God from the Sanchita Karma says, hey, this Venkatesh in this life will experience this. That's the prarabdha karma. And if I do good, in the Agami Karma, something will happen. And if I do anything bad, something bad will happen. So Bhagavan says, oh, there is Agami Karma, there's Sanchita Karma, and there's Prarabdha Karma. Bhagavan says, if you do self-inquiry, what happens? It's like a cotton ball. You know, a cotton ball. If you take a hand lens and show the hand lens on the sun, what happens to the cotton ball? The whole thing vanishes. It gets burnt. The cotton ball gets burnt. So Bhagavan says, if you keep inquiring into who you really are, then what happens? All your vasanas, all whatever gets all burnt out. Then what happens? You will come out of this chakkar of birth and death, the cycle of birth and death. You will come out of this. Then what happens? You realize who you really are. So, what is a people say, oh yes, okay, I understand that I have to get rid of my attachments, but how do I get rid of attachments? My family is there, my friends are there, my possessions are there. How do I get rid of it? It's a very, very, very slow process. You have to, first of all, you have to identify that this body is the first thing that causes everything else. The I thought which rises, because of the I thought that rises, the body rises, this world rises, and all the objects of this world rise. Because of all objects rise, let the objects rise, no problem. But if you put thought behind the objects and say this is mine and that is not mine, that's when the dukkha starts. You feel attached. A lot of people in the last moments in their life, they struggle to leave the body. Why? Because they're attached to whatever they have. They're attached to the family, attached to the children, attached here, attached there. So the trick about all this is Asangoham, non-attachment. So the only way to, it's like the beautiful sky. Sky it is not attached to anything. There may be dark clouds, there may be no clouds, it is just not attached. It is just there. It is a silent witness. The consciousness is like that. The consciousness is. That's why Swami Shivananda's Samadhi, if you go in Rishikesh, it's written, be good, do good. It's not written, do good and then be good. No, first be good. Being is very important. God does not see what you do. See, we always saying, oh, I will go and give a mukut to Tirupati. Everything is Tirupati's only. So if I with egos present him a 2 crore mukata, it is foolishness on my part. So important thing we need to understand here is how do we get this release? How are we able to move out from this attachment? It's a slow process, and the best way to do it is the method of self-inquiry. It's just like the example I gave you about me and this body and the I, the mind, intellect, and the consciousness. But the funny thing about consciousness, and it is nothing to hold inside. This is the funny thing about spiritual life. You say, oh, Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. How can I hold on to this God? There's no way I can hold on to this God. So how do you realize that you're moving in the right path? Oh, am I really moving in the Asangoham? Am I really actually? It is deep dispassion. Is one clear indicator. Deep dispassion. That means what's going to happen? You will know for real that everything that is seen is an object, and what does the object do? It is just there. Why am I getting attached to it? Because I put energy behind it. It's something like this. If you're sitting in a bus stand and you're expecting nobody, what happens? Oh, everybody's coming. So many people, hundreds of people are coming and going. And you're looking at your mobile or your book. It does not matter who comes, who goes. No thoughts. So many objects are moving up and down. Now imagine your brother is coming. And you're sitting in the bus stand waiting for your brother. And it's getting late for the bus to leave. What do? Oh, you look. Oh, is that my brother? No. Is that my brother? So every object that is coming, you're putting energy behind that object. And then what happens? Attachment. And then when your brother comes, it's attachment. So we have to become renunciates. We have to actually renunciate all our desires, our affection and attachment. So whenever, see what happens is in this spiritual life, our inside we become very, very focused. And in this journey, what happens? We know if you're moving in the wrong direction, we'll immediately know. Because they say walking on the spiritual path is like walking on a knife edge. You can fall this way or you can fall that way. It's very easy. So you have to have continuous viveka and vairagya, discrimination and dispassion. Otherwise, what happens? These objects will, you go to a beautiful mall. Now coming up the Dashera time, all the malls will have discount sales. Buy 2, get 3 free. Buy 100 grams of gold, 1 gram coin fee free. All these schemes will come. What happens? These are like twinkling. There are like stars outside there. And you're saying, oh yes, it is there. It's real. Brahmam Satyam Jagat Mitya. The world is not real. Because like the dream, when you woke up from the dream, what happened? You dropped all the attachments. But what happens in the waking? We have to wake up to this waking. Unless we wake up to this waking, we won't know really where we are going. So, what are the great ones saying? That unless you start detaching yourself slowly, start slowly. Something that you like, drop it. I love to drink coffee every day in the morning. Okay, I become attached to my coffee. I cannot do anything without my coffee in the morning. Fine. You can, instead of a full cup of coffee, have half a cup of coffee. Or instead of having 3 cups of coffee a day, have 2 cups of coffee. And then what happens? Then have 1 cup of coffee. Then what happens? You automatically start detaching yourself. And these desires, which have to become vasanas, or later on they become vasanas, they become so strong that you cannot do without coffee. If you don't have your coffee, your body starts trembling. If you don't have your morning coffee, I know people who are like that. So then what happens? It's a permanent attachment. Now, in that situation, who is the master and who is the slave? Is the question you're going to ask yourself. And if you really ask that question, you'll realize you're the slave and the master is the coffee. But do you want to be the master or do you want to be the slave is a question that each one of us to have to ask ourselves. If we want to be the master in every situation, that means what? Your mind becomes a good friend of yours. It listens to you. It doesn't get carried away. And whatever is happening, like the coffee habit, if you reduce the outside, the bahirmukha, if you reduce the events outside you, what happens? You automatically turn inwards. So attachments become non-attachment. But what happens? What are more dangerous? The inside attachments or outside attachments? People think outside attachments are more difficult. No, the inner attachments that we have, others don't know about it. Those are very dangerous because they come up very subtly. So Bhagavan says that unless you are absolutely alert and absolutely your mind is still, then only you are moving towards the right, moving in the right direction. So Bhagavan says, so how to do it? So as you give less and less importance to the outside, then what happens? You're working on the inside. Then when you start working on the inside and you realize God is sitting within us, then you start surrender to the God within. He says that whatever has to be happen in the outside, in the time and space, in Nama and Rupa and time and space, everything will be looked after by Bhagavan. I don't have to worry at all. What I will do, I will try to find out who am I. And as I go inwards, there is nothing to hold. When there is nothing to hold, what happens? There is no attachment. So, but mind will keep coming out and says, hey, the sale is there. You have to inquire. Every time the mind goes out, you have to inquire, for whom is this thought? When you ask for whom is this thought, for me, who am I? Then what happens to the thought? The thought quietens. That attachment. Initially, the intensity of those attachments go down and down and down and down. Then what happens? At one time, there will be no attachments. Mind will not move out. It's like in foreign countries, these dogs have a collar and their house has got an electric fence. So what happens is, if the dog goes towards the electric fence, to the boundary of the house, it gets a shock on the collar, on its neck. So after some time, even if you switch off the electric fence and you remove the collar of the dog also, the dog will not go out because it knows based on his experiences, last 50, 100 experiences, that every time it's getting a shock. I'm not going that way. So even when the dog goes, it does not try to chase it because it knows it's going to get a shock. What has happened? There is no collar and there's no electric fence. Exactly the same thing with the mind. Every time you inquire, for whom is this thought? What happens? The mind is trying to go and objectify something. It's trying to go outside and objectify. It likes objectify. It likes to jump from one object to another object. It does not like to be with the subject. So whenever it tries to get up, Bhagavan says, does not matter how many times. Ask for whom. When you inquire, when this is called Atma Vichara or self-inquiry, every time you do that, then what happens? Mind after some time does not go out. It's like the dog. Even the collar is removed and the electric fence around the house is removed, the dog will not go out. Similarly, the mind after some time will not go out. That means what? It is with who you really are. It is with that Satchidananda Atman. Then what happens? You experience that bliss within. You'll be absolutely alert and absolutely still within. The mind will just not move. But now people have questions. Will I become useless? No, you'll not become useless. And a lot of people think, have I to leave my job? There's another question that comes in people's mind. Do I need to resign my job? So Bhagavan says, resign to him, to that God. If you resign to him, then what happens? There's no will of yours. Only it's his will. And his will be perfect. There won't be anything bigger and better than his will. Then you're like a first class passenger sitting in a train with all your luggage on the top, in the luggage area, not keeping the luggage on your lap. And you're enjoying the ride. So the trick about non-attachments is to be able to move from the public domain into the private domain. Is to move from outside. Everybody is in the outside. Everybody is trying to impress somebody else. But Bhagavan says, when you go inside, you'll realize what is inside and outside is the same. It's only consciousness. Then everything is only you, the consciousness. There's nothing apart from you. That's what Bhagavan says. There's no other. He always says that. Bhagavan says, there's no other. Why does he say there's no other? Because you're not identifying yourself with this body anymore and all the attachments with this body. You are being, not doing, no more doing. So when you're being, then what happens? Everything only becomes, is pervaded. It's like the ripples are nothing but the lake. And the lake is nothing but the water. So once you realize that within and without is only consciousness, then what pervades everything? It's only consciousness. For that, you need to develop purity within. You need to develop Asangoham, unattached. You don't have to attach to anything. Why? Body jada. If somebody dies, what happens? Nothing happens. Body was whatever was born has to go. So it went. Did anything happen? Nothing happened. But you are that Chaitanya. You are that Satchidananda Atman. It cannot be cut. It cannot be wetted. Nothing can be happen to it. You are that. You've always been that. Currently also you are that, and you will always be that. And what happens to you? Nothing happens to you. It's what you associate yourself with. If you associate yourself with this body, mind, ego complex in time and space, then all these attachments are there in the world. And you feel angry if somebody takes something away, somebody does not do something like this, somebody does something like this, you feel very angry. But if you are with the source, like that Shivananda says, give him the tabla also. Why? Or Bhagawan used to say, people were standing in a queue to have his darshan. Bhagavan said, no, 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 I am sitting here to have their darshan. It's a very important thing. Why? Because every being is that consciousness. And Bhagavan says that very, very clearly. All mouths that eat are actually my mouth as that eating. So he said food should be distributed to everybody equally. So once we understand these aspects of, then where will you have attachment? When you are that all-pervading consciousness, within and without, then what are you to attach yourself with? There is nothing to attach because everything is you only. There's nothing but you, consciousness. If you attach yourself with the body, there are many objects that you get attached to. But as you do self-inquiry and go within and experience that Yamahamiti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. When you experience that I within, then what happens? You'll realize that everything is only me. There's nothing but me, the consciousness. Once you understand that, then absolutely no desires. Absolutely become desireless. When you become desireless, there are no attachments of any sort at all. When there are no attachments of any sort at all, then what happens? You are in absolute peace. You are in bliss. When? Here and now. Not tomorrow. It's not that I'm going to be happy tomorrow. No, I'm going to be happy. I want to be happy here and now. When is life happening? Life is happening now. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow it will happen. Then also it will be now. Life is happening now. Once you understand life is happening now, then what happens? You are always with Bhagawan. You don't leave the holy feet of Bhagawan, who's within. Once you hold on to him and surrender to him, everything is perfect. So we'll do self-inquiry now. Now that we understand that everything is happening within, nothing happening without, we'll do self-inquiry. Close your eyes, watch your breath, just watch your nostrils. Watch the air going in and going out. The source of the mind and the source of the breath is the same. If your breath is relaxed, the mind is also relaxed. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana. Namo Ramana, everyone. We can have question and answer session.